All right, let's go. I thought I would take some time and talk about the deck that I built for Journey to the Crossroads, because it was quite a process. And I know a lot of folks like talking about deck building, and it's always easier to talk about deck building when I have an actual deck to talk about instead of just generic deck building suggestions and ideas. So, painting with the broadest brush possible, decks can be boiled down to mechanics and theme. And sometimes you have more focus on one than the other. For example, C-Stand's The One deck is solely based on mechanics. The only theme is all the cards have something to do with Middle-earth. It's just a deck that's built to be strong, and each card plays a role in helping you beat quests. There are other decks, like the one I used for Road to Isengard, where it's Merry, Pippin, and Treebeard, and all the Ents attacking Isengard. Very thematic. The hero lineup is thematic, all the cards within the deck are pretty much thematic, but even within a thematic deck you will have mechanics, like the Ents have cards that mechanically help the Ents do things. And as you can see, I also have card draw, which you just need. You need card draw in your decks for any deck to work. I do not worry about my card draw being thematically appropriate. It's mechanically appropriate. So that's the basic way you can break down decks. Mechanical and thematical. Most decks are a combination of the two. If you try to build a solely thematic deck, a lot of times it falls a little flat because you basically are forced to include some cards that don't quite fit the theme if you want the deck to be optimized. But if you really want the deck to be thematic, you will forego those mechanics, knowing you could have made the deck stronger, but you wanted to stay on theme. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with this. So now let's go to the Journey to the Crossroads. Now, this quest is quite interesting. First of all, it's insanely hard solo. It's insanely hard 4-player. It's a hard quest. So when you're going into a quest that's very, very hard, a lot of times you are not able to play as thematic of a deck as you want because you are forced to include certain mechanics within your deck that might not fit the theme that you were hoping to do. That's why a lot of times we suggest on the show, don't be afraid to build decks that can only beat the medium and easier level quests. And then the harder quests, you just know you're going to have to add some tech to it. You're going to have to add some mechanics to your deck that you didn't include in your original build. This quest reveals an additional enemy every round. So every round you're going to reveal an enemy, and these are bad enemies. They're not just little wimpy orcs. These are bad enemies. And then you are also going to reveal your encounter card. So obviously in solo, that means you're revealing 2 cards a round. Now, that does not scale in multiplayer. So in a 4-player game, you're only revealing 1 extra card a round. Not every player is revealing 2 cards. So in 4-player, that extra card is not as big of a deal because you have a lot more heroes and cards on the board. In solo, from turn 1, you are revealing 2 cards a round. One of them is an enemy. If that wasn't bad enough, each round there is a location in the staging area that is increasing threat. And also, one of the ways you lose, in addition to all the normal ways you lose, one of the ways you lose is any enemies left in the staging area at the end of the planning phase escape to the Black Gate of Mordor. And if that value hits 3 more than the number of players, you lose. So if I leave 4 enemies up in the staging area, I lose. So I have to do something with these enemies. I can let a couple sneak by, but you can't do that forever. You have to have a plan to engage these enemies, to deal with these enemies. You have to have a plan to boost your willpower. You have to have a plan to handle 2 encounter cards around. You have to have healing. You have to have everything. So let's go to the problem I had with this build. This is where Frodo and Sam meet the Ithilien Rangers, and so it seemed obvious to me that this is going to be an Ithilien Rangers trap deck. And so this is my first idea. I had all these traps like entangling nets. I had Ithilien Rangers like the Guardian of Ithilien. Of course, you had to have Faramir, you have to have Mablung, you have to have Damrod. These are mentioned characters. I was thinking I could even run Smeagol Hero. Now, technically, you're not allowed to run Smeagol Hero in a Saga quest. It says so in the box Smeagol came in, but that's just because he's an objective in so many of the quests. In this quest, he is not an objective. So, I mean, in theory, you could run him for this quest. Yes, I'd be breaking a rule, but the rule is there just so people don't get to a quest and realize, oh, I can't run Smeagol as a hero in this quest. So, but for this quest, it would have been okay, I think. I was going to try to do things like straight shot. So you have to have tech in your deck to handle a great big enemy. This Mumak is horrible, but if you can figure out a way to just get rid of him in one go, like by reducing his defense by 2 and then using straight shot. But yes, lots of Gondor characters, lots of traps, and then I quickly realized traps are a terrible idea. Look at Ranger Spikes. Amazing, amazing trap. It only costs 1 with Damrod. When an enemy goes in it, Damrod will draw you a card, and then that enemy gets -2 threat and stays in the staging area forever. It's a great way just to reveal an enemy and be like, all right, I don't have to deal with you for the rest of the game. Then, like I said earlier, though, this enemy would escape to the Black Gate the following round and make you closer to losing. Same thing with Poison Stakes. High threat enemy gets revealed, gets trapped in some Poison Stakes, eventually dies. Nope, it will escape to the Black Gate the following round. Traps don't work. But I kept trying. I really did. I kept trying. I added the Great Hunt because I had 3 lore heroes for a while, figuring I could just get rid of enemies by playing the Great Hunt, and then hopefully I would be able to recycle it using the Scroll of Isildur to replay it from my discard pile. Maybe I could just keep playing the Great Hunt. This did not work because you will get engaged by enemies, and I was having a hard time also defending the enemies and paying for the Great Hunt over and over again. Lots of different variations. I just kept trying. So then I switched up my idea. I said, all right, what if I just go for a purely Gondor deck? These are Gondorian Rangers. So I went with Leadership Faramir. I had Eleanor. This was a Bond of Friendship deck, so I had 4 heroes, 5 including Frodo. So I needed to have 1 hero of each sphere. I can only include 10 cards of each sphere plus 10 non-sphered cards. And nope, this didn't work either. I thought by having the extra hero, I could make this work, and it didn't. Now, some of these cards, as I'm going over them, you might say, why was that in there? Well, some of these have minus, so this is just the history. So it's saying I took out this card, I added this card. That didn't work either. This would have been a great card to include, the Hennefanon Guard. I mean, it's just so thematic. So I really, really tried to make this deck thematic in the simplest of terms. Gondor characters, traps, I mean, it just seems like, yeah, that's what I should do for this quest. Could not get it to work, guys. I tried so many times. I mean, I'll just keep scrolling up, and you can see I just kept trying things and trying things and trying things. This did not work. I mean, this is how I ended this deck. I just gave up. I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, it seemed like it would be a good hero lineup. Playing traps, I thought I could just include some traps, like Poison Stakes, and then just engage the guy, and then it would take damage while it's engaged with me. Athelian Pit, I could swing up into the staging area and not have to actually deal with this enemy. It did not work. It did not work. And I was getting pretty frustrated, to be honest, because I know you can beat this quest solo. I've done it before, but that's using like Sneak Attack Gandalf, and the elves are really good because they have the Rivendell Blade, which reduces defense by 2, so then you can play Straight Shot. At first I thought, hey, I'll just put Elf Friend on Frodo. He's an Elf Friend. He'll get the Noldor and Sylvan traits. Then he can hold on to the Rivendell Blade, and then I can play Straight Shot. That did not work. The quest goes too fast. I don't have time to set that up. It's a good combo, but you don't have time to set it up. So I did what I think was a very good idea. I went to the Hive Mind. Joining the COTR Discord channel is great for this. So I went to the Hive Mind, started talking to folks saying, hey, I'm having trouble coming up with a thematic deck for this. Anyone got any ideas? First thing that everyone said, I'm not crazy. This quest with a thematic Athelian Ranger deck is nearly impossible. I mean, this screenshot right here shows what I revealed in 1 round. This is the enemy that came up automatically from the reveal an enemy from this pile of enemies card, and then I revealed a surging enemy to another enemy. I mean, if I don't engage any of these folks, I lose. That's a lose right there. And this was like turn 2. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Turn 2, I'm dead. It doesn't matter what deck you brought. you're going to die. These guys have archery. They both make you discard a card. This guy increases the attack of all these guys. It's, give me a break. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I'm done. So started talking to everybody. Folks started giving me suggestions, started coming up with decks, and C-Stan chimed in. He had an idea. He had an idea to do this. The Dunedain Rangers helping the Athelian Rangers is not that far of a stretch of your imaginations. In fact, Frodo even recognizes that Mablung and Damrod are of Dunedain descent, that the Rangers and the Dunedain have something in common. So I was perfectly fine using Dunedain. So it's a decently thematic lineup. He put in Outlands. He put in the Steward of Gondor. He put in the Test of Will. He put in Gondorian Fire. And he put in the Blood of Numenor. Now, why am I calling these cards out? These are arguably the strongest cards in the game. I think the only card being left off the list here would be the Elrond Vilya. Maybe Tactics Eowyn, Spirit Arwen, but I'm just, for like cards in your deck, Outland characters, they all boost each other to insane amounts. They're great for when you're trying to teach somebody the game. It's a really fun deck to play. They're going to have a lot of fun. It's really fun boosting everybody. If you're stuck against a really hard quest, you bring an Outlands deck, you have a great chance of beating it. I'm glad they're in the game. I really am. I don't use them very much because it does just pretty much play itself. And they're not always thematic. In fact, you could argue that Outlands characters are not really Athelian Ranger characters. But I get, they are Gondorian area characters. Okay, fine. Gondorian Fire, Blood of Numenor. Spending a resource to give the attached hero a boost based on the number of resources left in that hero's resource pool. These cards are borderline broken. They are just nuts. They are super, super strong. They're Gondorian, so it's great. But they are incredibly strong. I try to stay away from them for the same reasons I stay away from Outlands. I try to build with cards that don't give you all the benefits you need with very little work. But these are two more cards that I'm glad are in the card pool, because not everybody wants to spend forever teching their deck, trying to figure out what to do. These are very good cards, and I hadn't considered using them, but I was starting to go there. Steward of Gondor is also a card that I barely use. It's of course thematic because, well, now that Boromir is dead, Faramir is going to be the next Steward of Gondor. So this is a Gondor deck, Steward of Gondor. Okay, fine. And, you gain all the resources. I just don't use it very much because in a thematic sense, it's not thematic in pretty much any of my decks for the Saga. I like to build decks without it, so if I play multiplayer, the player who has Steward in their deck can use it, and we're not fighting over who gets to play Steward. A Test of Will, I like to usually build around the treacheries instead of just straight out canceling them. But again, great, powerful card. And then his big idea was, let's play Doomed cards. So Doomed 4, add a resource to everybody. The Seeing Stone, Doomed 1, find a Doomed card. And then that lets you play Fierce Defense, which as long as your threat's over 40, you can spend 3 tactics resources and you get rid of a non-unique enemy engaged with you. That's a great way to get rid of the Mumak. So that was his idea on how to get rid of it. This was good. I mean, it's a good deck. It's a strong deck. Take a screenshot here or go to the Discord channel, and this deck would help you in pretty much any quest. This would be a great deck. It wasn't on theme enough for me, but it had the bones of where I think the deck needed to go. So it was a great suggestion. I said to myself, all right, Chad, the quest you're playing is not pulling its punches, so neither can you. You need to bring the power. You need to bring the fire. So using Chris's idea, and I don't want to not include what anybody else was saying. Everybody that was also involved in the conversation was along the same lines as Chris and saying how what he was suggesting was probably the path of some sort that I needed to go on. I want to share this screenshot. This is a screenshot from when I was testing a deck I had built. See, it's the Bond of Friendship deck. This was my board state. So here's the heroes. I had a way to drop my threat by 5. Here's all the allies I had in play, and I was losing. In a solo game, this board state here was not strong enough to handle this quest. I already had 1 enemy under the Black Gate. I'm currently engaged with 2, and I have a Mumak up in staging. So now, let's get to the deck that I ended up using. All right, I'll keep some of the stuff blacked out just so I can talk about it as we go. But started with my first version. It was on Thursday. And then it went through 8 iterations. And then I ended up with the deck that I used to beat the quest. Okay, so first and foremost, Frodo Baggins. You got to include Frodo. This is Black Rider's Frodo. So he can spend a resource and put on the ring. And whatever card was just revealed from the encounter deck. That's important because those enemies I keep talking about, they come from a pile underneath the Crossroads. So it only can get rid of the card from the encounter deck. But when a card from the encounter deck is revealed and you don't like it, you can shuffle it back into the deck and reveal another one. This is here so I can hopefully keep from revealing enemies from the encounter deck. The hope would be if I reveal an enemy that I cannot handle, I shuffle it into the deck and I reveal a location. Or even a treachery. Like there's some treacheries that don't add an additional enemy. Maybe it's just an additional attack, which is better than an additional enemy because then it's just one attack versus a new enemy that will continuously attack you until you kill it. Okay, leadership, Faramir. He's really good for this quest because of his ability. I do not like his stat line. He's 11 threat and he's 2/2/2/5 ranged. That makes no sense to me. We just talked about this on the last episode of COTR 208, where why are you ranged and why do you have 2 defense? And why does your response say after you engage an enemy, ready an ally you control? Being ranged and having a response that deals with engaging enemies and then having defense, he's just all over the place. But I know his qualities and they are few. Readying an ally is very good in this quest because there's an enemy that exhausts, it's the Mumak, there's an enemy that exhausts all your allies, and that triggers first, and then Faramir gets to pop one of them back up. And obviously, super thematic. Barivor. So, Dunedain Ranger, like I said before, totally okay with me that a Dunedain Ranger is helping out. She is pretty much essential. I think playing this quest solo, it's really hard to imagine a better hero than Barivor. Exhauster to draw 2 cards. When you're playing an incredibly hard quest, card draw becomes so much more important. You need to have the cards in your hand to play them when you need to. You're playing a quest that has insane treacheries, you need to have a Test of Will in your hand. You need to ramp up your resources, you need to have Steward of Gondor in your hand. The only way to do that is to draw cards. And that's why Barivor is so important. And if you can ready her somehow, she again has the 2/2/2 stat line, but this time I don't care. Because her main purpose is drawing cards, and then I like using any of those stats for what I need at the moment. Faramir, I think, just should be specialized. Like, he should, if he's ranged, he should have more attack, and his response, to be honest, should be something to do with ranged. Okay, my final hero. Now, once I decided that this would be my final hero, I'll be honest with you, the deck just came together. It worked. I think the term is a flash of genius, where you just have an idea and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, then and then this will, and then it all just comes together and it came together perfectly. So if we think about the theme of what's going on here, Frodo and Sam meet the Rangers and they ambush the men of Harad as they're on their way to the Black Gate. This is from the Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit chapter. It's a really fun chapter. I love it. I love Sam talking about the Oliphants. This is where Sam, not Faramir like in the movie, thinks about the dead Harad soldier, and if he truly was evil, would he have rather just stayed at home? One of the greatest paragraphs, to be honest, about just war in general and fighting and how terrible it actually is. That got me thinking about how some of these Harad, they might not actually be the enemies of the free peoples of Middle-earth, they're just being forced to do this against their will. Which then got me thinking about the Sands of Harad Deluxe Box and following cycle. In the Sands of Harad Deluxe Box, you befriend some Harad characters who are fleeing the orcs. This is taking place when Mordor is expanding its reach, and these Harad characters do not want to join up with the Dark Lord, and they actually help your heroes. And then we get some Harad characters. So I thought, it seems perfectly logical to me that this would have been happening during the War of the Ring. And in fact, it would not be completely outrageous to think that there would be spies on both sides. There'd be evil Gondorian characters helping out Sauron and giving information that they shouldn't. There could even be Gondorian soldiers being tortured, giving information they don't want to. But on our side, there could be Harad defectors and spies helping us fight against Harad, against Sauron. And so that's when I thought to myself, what if I used Messenger of the King Jubair, who is a Harad warrior, sentinel, after he exhausts to defend an attack, discard one face-down shadow card from a non-unique enemy, limit once per phase. He's a spy. He's there helping the Rangers. He's one of those good Harad. I think that's a pretty cool thing to do, and I don't think it's insane. I think it's perfectly logical. Once I put him in the deck, it did so many things. He's Spirit, which I really wanted access to Spirit, so I could play a Test of Will. He's a defender. He gets rid of the Shadow card, which the Shadows were killing me. And if I can ready him once, just one Unexpected Courage, I can handle that one enemy that engages you and attacks in the engagement phase. I can do my once per phase readying, thanks to Messenger of the King. I'm allowed to ready him once every phase, and then he's ready to help out in the combat phase. And then if I get readying on him and I only had to defend one enemy, he can attack for 2. And with 9 threat, he's helping me get to 40, which I want to do. C-Stan's idea of using Fierce Defense, which I also was trying to think of when I started asking these questions, like, hey, maybe I can use Fierce Defense. Getting my threat up to 40 is not hard when you're running 3 powerful heroes. This worked, and I really liked it. I really did. I thought it was very fun having a spy helping the Rangers out. It just seems like something that the Rangers would take advantage of. So I included the Amphalas Herdsman and Aether Swordsman for questing and archery soak, because these guys add hit points. We got our field medic, that's Eorith. She can help heal. Mablung's here. And then Sam. I did not include Damrod because I did not have room. There is a Damrod ally. And then over here on attachments. Okay, so the tech. We have the Armored Destier. So that could go on a Sentinel hero, and that would allow me to ready Jubair. And if I had to handle 2 attacks in the combat phase, I could get rid of both shadows. One with Jubair's ability, one with the Armored Destier's ability. The Favor of the Valar is something you attach to your threat dial, and if your threat hits the threat elimination level, it drops it down by 5. And the flavor text has to do with Faramir when he is on the Vair during the Siege of Gondor. So at least it's Gondorian flavor text. So that's decently thematic. Okay, Gondorian Fire is here. Gondorian Shield to go on Jubair. The Hauberk of Mail to go on Jubair. And then 3 copies of the Song of Battle, so I can pay for these tactics cards. Even if a tactics card is free, like Gondorian Fire, you still need to have access to the sphere somehow. And then to help me find the Song of Battle, I have 3 copies of Heed the Dream. So that'll help me find it. So between 3 copies of Heed the Dream and 3 copies of the Song of Battle, I should have no problem finding the Song of Battle. The Steed of the North goes on Barivor, so she can ready. Steward, of course, Unexpected Courage is fine. Test of Will, card draw, card draw, card draw. Legacy of Numenor to give me some resource acceleration, so this will help me pay for the kicker of Heed the Dream. So if I get Steward on Faramir, he should have a lot of leadership resources, and then when I play Heed the Dream, I can search my entire deck for the card I need. So if I don't have Song of Battle, between Heed the Dreams, Drinking Song, I have Old Bogey Stories on my boon lists, I should be able to find the Song of Battle when I need to. I want to get to 40 as soon as possible. And then once there, I try to keep it above 40, so double back will drop my threat back down if it gets dangerously high. Quick Strike is great. This comes in very handy. A lot of times it's hard to kill these enemies in the same round you engage them. They're pretty tough, but they might only have 1 or 2 hit points left. So just an attack of 3 or something would take out that enemy, and you can just avoid the attack because you know you're going to get another one. So this build is thematic, but it also includes a lot of the tech that I needed to beat the quest. And it came together once I decided on the proper hero lineup, where each hero is fulfilling a role, card draw, readying, and I guess whatever I needed him to do. This helps get rid of cards I don't want to reveal. Defense. Like, once I had all those boxes checked, then the rest of the cards in the deck helped me succeed. And I've had a pretty good success rate with this deck. The thing is with Journey to the Crossroads solo is you just have to be okay with the first or even second as well enemy sneaking through to the Black Gate. You need to be okay that you're going to end the game with a couple enemies making it through to the Black Gate. You're playing this quest solo. It's insanely hard. That's just where it's got to be. If you're playing it multiplayer, no enemies making it to the Black Gate is completely possible. Solo, nearly impossible if you're trying to be thematic at all. Like I said, there's plenty of cards in solo that would help you beat this quest, but they weren't very thematic, so I was trying to stay away from them. Okay, so this is the build that I'm going to use when I play Journey to the Crossroads, and it's a very fun deck. It's a very powerful deck. I think this would be a good deck against any quest. I think you would have fun with it. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy the video, and I hope you enjoyed this deck building segment. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.